A helicopter rotor strikes a C-130 wing in total darkness. 8 Americans burn alive. Not one enemy bullet was fired. The mission to save 52 hostages just killed their rescuers. The kill chain. Today, we enter the salt flat where 8 Americans burned alive, and American Special Operations was reborn. Here at the kill chain, we dissect the decisions that destroy missions, using the sources commanders had. 8 helicopters, 600 miles of desert, 52 hostages, 0 margin for error. The Holloway Report would later identify 23 points where this operation was doomed to fail. On November 4, 1979, Iranian students stormed the American embassy in Tehran and seized 66 Americans. The crisis erupted months after the Islamic Revolution overthrew the American allied Shah of Iran. Ayatollah Khomeini cast America as the Great Satan. Negotiation with the Great Satan was impossible. President Carter personalized the crisis, canceling trips and holding prayer vigils for months on end. Diplomatic channels produced nothing. The hostages had been captive for 5 months when military planners received authorization. The man chosen to lead the ground assault was Colonel Charlie Beckwith, the founder of Delta Force. Beckwith had spent a year with the British SAS and modeled Delta Force on their hostage rescue doctrine. Delta Force had been declared operational barely 3 months before the embassy was stormed. The unit had never deployed. The planning cell was assembled in total secrecy. There was no Joint Special Operations Command. They invented one. The Holloway Report later concluded they started literally from zero to establish a joint task force. The rescue plan was audacious, fragile, and unprecedented. It required 5 stages across 2 nights inside Iran. Stage 1. 8 Navy RH-53D Sea Stallion helicopters launch from the carrier Nimitz into total darkness. They fly 600 miles across the Iranian desert to a remote salt flat codenamed Desert 1. Stage 2. Refuel from Air Force C-130 transports, then fly Delta Force to a mountain hide site near Tehran. Stage 3. CIA agents drive Delta Force into Tehran in prepositioned trucks under cover of darkness. Stage 4. Storm the embassy, eliminate guards, extract 52 hostages to the nearby Amjadi soccer stadium. Stage 5. Army Rangers seize an abandoned airfield. C-141 transports fly everyone to safety in Egypt. What strikes us about this plan is not its ambition. It is the mathematical fragility built into every stage. The helicopter pilots were Marines flying Navy birds. They had never trained with the Delta operators they carried. The Air Force controllers operated under total radio silence. They had not rehearsed with the ground teams. The obsession with operational security became so extreme that full mission rehearsals simply never occurred. Now imagine you are Colonel Beckwith. Your unit has never deployed. Your pilots are strangers. Do you proceed? On April 16th, Carter gave the final go order. Beckwith promised to bring everybody home. April 24th, 1980. The USS Nimitz sits in the Arabian Sea. 8 Sea Stallion helicopters warm their engines. The pilots are Marines trained on CH-53 variants. These RH-53D Navy minesweepers handle differently in every respect. At precisely 7:30 p.m. local time, the 8 helicopters lift off the carrier deck into total Iranian darkness. They fly at 200 feet above the desert floor. No lights, no radio contact, pure instrument navigation. 2 hours into the flight, Helicopter 6 triggers a blade inspection warning. The crew lands in the desert. What the Marine crew did not know, the RH-53D could continue flying with that warning. Their training never covered it. Another helicopter picks up the stranded crew. 7 aircraft remain. The mission continues into the dark. Then the formation flies directly into a haboob, a wall of suspended dust stretching 100 miles across the desert. The Air Force Weather Service knew this dust phenomenon was possible. That intelligence never reached the helicopter crews. The sources are unambiguous on this point. The Holloway Report cited weather data compartmentalization as a critical failure. Inside the haboob, visibility drops to 0. The helicopter pilots cannot see their own rotor tips. Strict radio silence prevents the Air Force planes from warning the Marine helicopter pilots about the dust conditions. Helicopter 5 loses its flight instruments to electrical failure. Flying blind in a dust storm without instruments is suicide. The pilot of Helicopter 5 turns back to the Nimitz. He was 25 minutes from clear desert sky. He could not have known. No one told him. The operational security that protected the mission was now killing it. 6 remaining helicopters emerge from the haboob and begin arriving at Desert 1, scattered and late. But the problems at Desert 1 had already begun. A civilian bus stumbled onto the classified landing zone. Delta operators detained 41 bewildered Iranian civilians from the bus. The desert road was not deserted. Then a fuel tanker truck refused to stop. A law rocket destroyed it, creating a fireball visible for miles. A second vehicle saw everything and fled into the night. Intelligence gathering about this road had been catastrophically inadequate. Of all the reconnaissance failures that day, this one was the most avoidable and the most dangerous. Despite the chaos, the 6 helicopters are now on the ground. 6 was the absolute minimum. The mission can still proceed. Then Helicopter 2 reports a catastrophic hydraulic failure. The secondary system is dead. It cannot fly safely. 5 helicopters. The mission requires 6. For every commander at Desert 1, the mathematics are unforgiving. Beckwith refused to reduce his assault team. The senior helicopter pilot refused to fly an unsafe aircraft. The sources disagree on the exact sequence of the abort decision. What every account confirms is the agony. Field Aviation Commander Colonel Kyle radioed Washington. The recommendation was passed to the president by satellite. Carter asked for Beckwith's assessment. Beckwith said abort. Carter replied, "Let us go with his recommendation." After 2.5 hours on Iranian soil, the abort confirmation reached Desert 1. Now they had to get out alive. What nobody discussed was the geometry. Helicopters and C-130s shared a strip barely wide enough for one aircraft. No one at Desert 1 knew it yet, but the next 90 seconds would kill 8 men and rebuild American warfare. Helicopter 3 lifted off the desert floor and banked left to clear a path for the lead C-130. In the blinding dust and darkness, the helicopter's rotor blades struck the C-130's wing directly above the fuel bladders. The C-130 was carrying 18,000 pounds of jet fuel. The explosion was instantaneous and absolute. 5 Air Force personnel and 3 Marines died inside the fireball. Their names deserve to be spoken aloud. Major Richard Back, Major Harold Lewis Jr., Technical Sergeant Joel Mayo, Staff Sergeant Dewey Johnson, Sergeant John Harvey, Corporal George Holmes Jr., Captain Lynn McIntosh, Captain Charles McMillan. The surviving personnel evacuated onto the remaining C-130 transports. They left behind 5 intact helicopters. They also left behind classified documents, mission plans, and the charred remains of 8 American servicemen. Carter had asked Beckwith to bring every body home. That promise died in the desert alongside the mission. At 1 a.m. on April 25th, President Carter addressed the nation. His voice was measured. His presidency was over. Iranian state media descended on Desert One at dawn. The wreckage was photographed, filmed, and broadcast worldwide. The images of American helicopters abandoned in the Iranian desert became the defining symbol of Carter's presidency. Inside the embassy, the hostages learned of the rescue attempt. Major Steve Kirtley later recalled the moment. "We knew there was a rescue attempt. We knew we were not forgotten. Then came the heartbreak." The hostages would remain captive for another 270 days. The rescue option was permanently off the table. In Washington, the Joint Chiefs commissioned a Special Operations Review Group. 6 senior officers, 3 retired, 3 active. Admiral James Holloway chaired the investigation. His report would identify 23 distinct failure points. The report is devastating reading. No existing joint task force, no unified command, no full mission rehearsal, no weather integration. The review group unanimously agreed the personnel were the most qualified available. The system failed them. When we first read through the Holloway findings, we had to verify them against 3 independent sources. Colonel Beckwith's memoir and Colonel Kyle's account diverge on key moments. Memoirs carry the distortions of hindsight. What is not disputed? The operation exposed catastrophic flaws in America's ability to execute joint special operations. Each service operated independently. The Army, Marines, Air Force, and Navy spoke different tactical languages. The Pentagon actually listened. From those ashes, the most significant military reorganization since World War II began. In October 1980, 6 months after Desert One, the Joint Special Operations Command was established at Fort Bragg. JSOC, Unified Delta Force, SEAL Team 6, and the intelligence support under a single command authority. The lack of trained Army helicopter pilots created a specific gap. The answer was the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. Known as the Night Stalkers, they would become the finest rotary wing special operations unit in military history. In 1986, the Goldwater-Nichols Act restructured the entire Department of Defense around Joint Operations Doctrine. The following year, the United States Special Operations Command became operational, every elite unit under one roof. This disaster led directly to the rewriting of American Joint Operations Doctrine. Every modern special operator trains on its lessons. Retired Ranger Keith Marrow, who was on the mission, said, "Our failure in Iran made us better. We established commands, units, and joint procedures that survive to this day. The claim is not hyperbole. Consider the evidence. May 2, 2011, two modified Black Hawks cross into Pakistani airspace at treetop level. The pilots are Night Stalkers from the 160th SOAR, the unit born from Eagle Claw's helicopter failures. The assault team is SEAL Team 6, organized under JSOC, the command created because Desert One had no unified command. They breach Osama bin Laden's compound in Abbottabad. The raid takes 38 minutes from insertion to extraction. One helicopter crashes during the raid. The crew switches to the backup plan without hesitation. Every contingency was rehearsed. Every failure mode from Eagle Claw had been addressed. 31 years of institutional learning compressed into one flawless night. The Night Stalkers' motto is "Night Stalkers don't quit." They adopted it because 8 men at Desert One could not finish the mission. The hostages came home on January 20th, 1981, minutes after Ronald Reagan took the oath of office. 444 days of captivity. The timing of their release was not coincidental. Kevin Hermanning was 20 when captured. He was the youngest of the 52. He later said, "We were not forgotten." The 8 men who died at Desert One are engraved at Fort Bragg. The doctrine they created is written everywhere. Any historian who claims Eagle Claw was simply a failure is overstating the evidence. The record is more complex. The Special Operations Review Group said it plainly. These individuals deserved a successful outcome. The system failed them. In March 2026, American forces are again conducting military operations inside Iran under Operation Epic Fury. The command structure they use was built from the wreckage at Desert One. The joint doctrine was written in those ashes. Every Night Stalker pilot flying over Iran today carries the institutional memory of 8 men who died in that desert. Operation Eagle Claw was a tactical failure by any measure. No hostages rescued, no enemy engaged, 8 dead. But here is what the conventional narrative misses. From that burning salt flat, the modern Special Operations Enterprise was born. JSOC, SOCOM, the 160th Night Stalkers, Goldwater Nichols, Joint Doctrine, Unified Command, all forged at Desert One. The next time a similar situation arose, commanders had a playbook. Whether they followed it is another episode entirely. Carter accepted full responsibility, as he promised Beckwith he would. It cost him the presidency. Beckwith never commanded another operation. He retired in 1981 and spent his remaining years haunted by the desert. Every history textbook calls Eagle Claw America's greatest military humiliation since the fall of Saigon. The archival evidence tells a different story. Eagle Claw was the catalyst that built the most lethal special operations force in history. 8 men died in a desert, so that thousands of future operators would never face the same systemic failures. The record is clear. The desert took 8 lives and gave back an entire architecture of American military power. If this analysis changed how you understand special operations history, share it with someone who served. Drop your assessment in the comments. Was Beckwith right to abort, or should he have pressed forward with 5 helicopters?